What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB in here. I have my boy, trusted confidant, Gunny, New York Jets situation report in the building. So, as you all know, I dropped a video before. We talked about the potential for Ron Middleton, our current tight ends coach, to leave. I wanted to dive into this further, right? I made a small case about what it would look like if he became our offensive coordinator. So, Gunny, where do you land on this, right? We know they're trying to play this cat and mouse game, right? Everybody doesn't want to necessarily say that they looked at replacing Nathaniel Hackett, but I heard his press conference speech. He sounded generally aggravated about it, as he should for a guy that probably shouldn't have made it out of two organizations now, between Broncos and us. But it seems like nobody really wants to admit, yeah, we tried to replace him and they couldn't put him on the back burner. I think Saleh did confirm he's handling play calling duties this year once again.
Correct.
So what do you think about the idea? I don't know if we would be able to transition Ron Middleton before, Hackett gets ousted at some point. But where do you land on Middleton potentially replacing him as OC?
Honestly, man, I love it. I think you and we talked about this before, man. I'm a huge fan of Middleton. He's one of the offensive coaches that we have on this roster that I feel very confident in. I believe has the intangibles as well as the tangibles necessary to be a successful coach at the NFL level. We saw him, stand in as the head coach for the Jets a couple of times already. And in those couple of efforts, the offense honestly looked better. The team looked more efficient. I think the guy has the pedigree to be a coach at the next level. I would love to keep him. I really would, man. If we could find a way to appease him now, make him assistant offensive coordinator potentially, and as the Aaron Rodgers, experience comes to an end here in the next couple of years, listen, I don't think Nathaniel Hackett is a feasible option without Aaron Rodgers. So I would much rather have Middleton already in the back burner preparing to take the reins, knowing what he has in terms of offensive personnel, and making it as easy of a transition as possible. Also, he's got direct access to Tyrod Taylor, who can play for several more years. He's got access to Jordan Travis, who he can go ahead and kind of work with. I think that has a lot of value. I would personally love to see him stay here as our offensive coordinator. If that means making him the assistant OC right now to kind of appease the situation, give him a little raise to keep him here on the Jets roster, I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. I know. So some of the commentary that I've gotten back is like, what qualifies him to be an OC? And it's not like we've never seen him in a position of leadership over a mass group, right? He has head coach of the Senior Bowl, got himself a win there. He had the COVID game during Robert Saleh's year one against his former team in the Jaguars, which he put up a dub in, had some pretty interesting stats and whatnot there too. I mean, I liked what I've seen out of him. There's an aggressiveness to him. I think the team has always responded to him from what we've seen since 2021. And just his coaching history himself, in and of itself, I think speaks to it, right? We're talking about a guy with 25 years of coaching experience. And this is, before you get into even him getting into the NFL, right?
Yeah.
2004 with the Bucks, and it's generally been with tight ends, right? But I actually forgot that he has some special teams experience. He has some experience with running backs. You take a look at his college career. He was actually an assistant head coach with Duke as well. So he's had, his fair share of being able to understand what he needs from each position as a whole outside of maybe a wide receiver unit, and he can lean into his assistant position coach for that specific experience. So is there anything that you look at and you say he would be severely lacking in this area if he took over?
No, I think this is a guy who has an abundance of coaching experience, like you were just saying, right? And he's been around NFL coaching staffs that coach offense. He's a part of the game plans. He understands what they need out of his position group. So it's not as if he's obtuse to what needs to be done to operate an offense, or that he's ignorant to what a good offense would look like. I believe this is a guy who's been in the game long enough that could tailor an offense, not just to his preference, but to the personnel he currently has at his disposal. I think his again, you said it perfectly. I think a lot of players gravitate to him, I think he is a player's coach. He's a guy that can go ahead and get guys, giving you that extra freaking 5%, that extra 10%. I know they would have run through a brick wall for that guy. I believe he can also tailor the offense to his player skill sets, which again would speak well to those players and could potentially go ahead and let them hit another level as well in their performance. Again, he's been around a lot of football in his life. Like you said, 25 plus years of experience, tight ends coach, special teams, a little bit of head coaching experience, running backs. Wide receivers. I mean, I know he hasn't been the wide receivers coach, but again, nowadays the tight ends have to be able to run routes, catch balls, and block. So I think he can go ahead and correlate that as well to the wide receivers in the same concept. So the skill sets are similar, minus the blocking. But I don't see a reason why you don't do this. A lot of offensive coordinators didn't just start off as offensive coordinators. They were either quarterbacks coaches, or they were running backs coaches, or they were wide receivers coaches. So right now in an era where tight ends are becoming more and more that special weapon, that special offensive threat or piece, why not a tight end coach become an offensive coordinator? So I'm all for it, man. I think we might lose him. If I'm being honest, I don't know if he's going to wait around for that opportunity. I think that, again, 25 plus years, he's been waiting for a shot. And right now his name is being mentioned amongst others as being a potential target for that opportunity. So I do worry we might lose him. But if there is a way of keeping him to be the future OC of this team, I think there's a lot of value to that, especially him having history and a relationship with the core group of offensive weapons that we have in the building.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you take a look at just the list of people that he's worked with, right? And this, he's essentially done something with every one of these guys. Ryan Griffin led our team in pretty much every category as the main tight end. Trayvon Wesco was able to get him a pretty decent contract, considering people just looked at him as subpar blocking tight end. He actually went. And who was it he outperformed for us? I think it was Tyler Croft, maybe, when we went with him as tight end one the next year. Like, it was crazy. Dan Feeney, Tyler Croft, Kenny Yeboah, Tyler Conklin, CJ, Jeremy Ruckert. We have Zach Kuntz now. You take a look at his Jaguar days, Julius Thomas, Mercedes Lewis. Almost everybody that he's worked with is fit in very nicely as either a role player somewhere, or they become one of the better known names at a tight end group. So when I look at him, I consider him one of the better position coaches in the league at what he's doing, right? As you mentioned, with tight end being kind of that X factor, if you can develop somebody up. And on top of that, we always have to account for the Jets quarterback situation. He's made these guys names in the NFL, right? This isn't just a Jets fandom thing here. Most people would know who a lot of those names are. And we've had Zach Wilson. We've had
Mike White.
Mike White throwing the ball.
Joe Flacco.
Teams that nobody else will want unless they have their emergency quarterback situation, playing out. Right. So you pair that with the fact that even when we were looking for an OC and we eventually settled on Nathaniel Hackett, a lot of the names that were out there, I can't remember his name right now, but we were looking at the Patriots tight ends coach as one of the options for us. So it's definitely presentable in I think a realistic option that we could consider him. And I'm kind of in your boat. I do think there's a realistic chance we end up letting him walk somehow, and it'll probably be put out there as a benefit for the New York Jets because he gets an OC position somewhere else. I don't know if he'll quite jump to the head coach level because it's rough. It's hard that a position coach ever really takes that huge of a leap that they skip over OC. But I don't think we get the comp picks back and stuff like that for him jumping up to another position. I think it has to be head coach in front office position. So we essentially lose our best guy on offense for nothing while probably revamping the entire offensive side of the ball again. It's a tough call. I mean, to be honest, though, I would probably give him priority looks, right? If we do go the route of, Nathaniel Hackett moving on, we fire him, whatever the case is, right? It's hard to predict what kind of names will be out there, but a lot of the names that people have thrown out, the Todd Munkins of the world and Ben Johnsons and all of these guys that we're seeing right now, they're already an OC. It makes absolutely zero sense that a guy goes from the same position to another,
Right.
at least for the offensive side of the ball, right? Jeff Ulbrich kind of had his own special situation with that 49ers offer.
Now,
But I
unless that OC would be excited to work with the core group of a Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is giving us another year. You've seen some guys look at the opportunity to go ahead and see the talent and decide, you know what, I can go ahead and get my next head coaching gig off of the back of that talent group. There could be that aspect. You got a defense as elite as this to go ahead and kind of support you and get the ball back in your hands. I mean, again, I'm with you. Depending on their situation, obviously. I'm not sure if those two guys would really count for that. Where is Ben Johnson right now?
Ben Johnson's with the Lions still, isn't he?
The Lions. Okay. Yeah, he's probably not. Yeah, they got a ridiculous roster as well. And Todd Monken's with the Ravens, right?
Todd Monken's with the Ravens. You have pretty much anybody else that's been up there as an OC is new, right? What is it? Not Kevin Stefanski. Ken Dorsey, I think, with the Browns and what he accomplished with all their injuries and stuff.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
So if the Miami Dolphins this year fail to go ahead and advance past the first round, with them giving McDaniel everything he's asked for, it seems like, when it comes to the offensive side of football, do you see them moving on from a McDaniel? And if so, how would you feel about him being an OC option or a target for the Jets?
So I think it only makes sense. Obviously, his offensive acumen is top tier, in my opinion.
Right.
He's understood how to go out there and develop a scheme and continue to build on it. Every smart coach that has generally excelled has those elite traits that they're looking for, and they understand how to utilize that. So I would have no problem with him coming over as OC. And I can see a world where the Dolphins have been a little finicky in terms of not having a, I guess, consistent level of success, right? We're a little bit, depending on how you look at it, right? We're a little abused as Jets fans, or we're too forgiving, right? Because in no world does Robert Saleh have this many lives in any other franchise. So
this is true.
And the Brian Flores situation always still rings as, a pretty recent situation for them with the level of success that he was having. So I can see them moving on. I would invite him with welcome arms if that was the case. As much as I do love Ron Middleton, I mean, that's a proven guy that's done it at that position already. Make him assistant OC or something. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I would jump all over that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
plus,
man.
Robert Saleh has his love affair with his guys.
Yep.
So
for me, man, I keep asking myself, imagine if we had gotten McDaniel over Mike LaFleur, and McDaniel, who I believe can cater his scheme around the strength of his personnel, which we've seen him do with Tua. Tua went as being literally a bust to somebody that everyone that made the Pro Bowl last year and led the league in freaking passing yards. So I put a lot of that credit on McDaniel for tailoring his scheme around the strengths of his quarterback. What could he do with Zach? Do you think he could be a guy that could have literally made Zach Wilson serviceable?
The Zach thing is always hard because I have gone back and thought about this just in relation to developing Jordan Travis, right?
Right.
A lot of Zach Wilson's, you take a look at a lot of his fatal flaws, his processing, his vision, his timing. And those are all three things that we've seen McDaniels be able to kind of pull out and draw out of guys. But and this is a part I don't know, how far behind was Zach Wilson? Obviously, we didn't do a great job of being able to help him out. When you have, Zach Wilson saying Nathaniel Hackett's been his best teacher, and then you see the shit show that he rolled out, like, it doesn't give me a ton of confidence that he knows what great coaching looks like. So
this is true.
I think he could have got him to be a serviceable level NFL quarterback, which is probably all we really needed for some kind of level of success. But I don't know if Zach Wilson would have ever lived up to, number 2 caliber player based on what he went through.
I think with McDaniels, after seeing what he's done with Tua, I think he would have made Zach Wilson, like you said, serviceable. Maybe a top 20, an NFL caliber quarterback. Not saying he's a starter or a franchise guy, but an NFL caliber quarterback, vice the whatever we've been watching for the last couple of years. And I think you're right. That would have been enough for the Jets to go ahead and win a few more games, maybe already break that playoff streak. But because I've been thinking about it a lot because they're going into the season, man, and I think their team is worse than it was last year. They'll tell you they feel it's better. I don't know what Jets or Dolphins fans are looking at, but their team got worse. They were significantly more talented last year than they are this year, and their schedule got a lot harder. They had the fourth easiest schedule last year. They now have, I think, like the 19th easiest schedule. So like it's a lot harder this year. And on the back end of their schedule, in the months where they struggle to play their best ball, i.e., Tua struggles in December on, they've got a gauntlet to go through. So I see a scenario where you're probably going to have to pay Tua right now. They're still going back with that, so you're going to pay Tua. And if you lose again on this season, or you miss the playoffs, or you lose in the first round of the playoffs, after seeing how this team has treated, like you said, Brian Flores, it's very, very plausible that McDaniel winds up being on the hot seat to get cut. And if he does, man, listen, I think you bring a McDaniel on, and then we got freaking, this defense cooking, and you let that man just cook up whatever he needs to for guys like Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and freaking Braylon Allen. I love what that could look like.
Yeah, I think that'd be crazy. The only thing I would say is I do get slightly wary of guys that are overly. It's like the Chip Kelly effect, the guy that thinks his scheme is better than the players that he needs to like bring into it. Where would he try to revamp our whole offense to just be a bunch of speed guys, which is not how we're necessarily built. We just have highly skilled guys between Breece Hall, who has speed, but like Garrett Wilson's not, a 4-3 guy or anything like that. So I wouldn't want to see some people that I think can develop and still be strong contributors put on the back burner just for the effect of having speed out on the field. But yeah, I don't think you could go wrong. Like it's I don't think it's a stretch to say if you brought a McDaniels in, you could have a top 10 to top 5 offense and defense in the same season for a good
100%,
2 to 3 seasons. If
100%.
some of these guys come in and continue.
And that's if he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers. Let's say he has Aaron Rodgers, and I think it's a top 5 offense in the NFL easily. And in regards to the speed thing, I think a lot of that when it comes to McDaniel, I think he understands the limitations again of his quarterback. He understands that his quarterback has to throw to specific spots on the field. That includes when he's throwing deep routes where he's got to go ahead and just throw it in that particular area because he knows his guy is supposed to be there. He needs speed guys to kind of make those things happen. Yeah. And I think if you asked him, he'd prefer to have more of a versatile wide receiver room or offensive group like they have in freaking San Francisco. But you're right. They're like a one-trick pony in terms of being just a speed team, a finesse team, which is why in the cold weather months you see the physicality aspect start to kick in and they just can't keep up. But I don't think that's because that's what he thinks is his ideal like roster. I think it's because he knows he needs that to maximize what Tua can bring to the table.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, going back to kind of the conversation you put about how he might get ousted, he's kind of in a lose-lose situation because this could be his final year, right? Like Tua is competing in a race against time for like Trevor Lawrence, and they're talking about Trevor Lawrence getting a $50 million a year contract, and Tua's obviously performed better than him. So like, if you don't lock in that contract before then, you're SOL. If you wait or you sign Tua to that contract before, you're basically tied to him now if you're McDaniels. And so if you don't, there's a world where the Dolphins potentially don't even make the playoffs this year. Like it's lose-lose. It's a double-edged sword that I wouldn't want to play with, which is why I can kind of see why they went all in the way they did in the draft with, even more speed guys and trying to augment that offense for him because it's really his last hurrah, the way that I'm looking at it.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, I'm sorry, man. I look at what they've done the last couple of years, and I can't help but fathom that if they had a guy like Jared Goff, they're AFC East champions a couple of times, they're probably in at least one Super Bowl because this offense has, I think it's one of the most talented rosters in terms of offense in the NFL, and what those dudes can do to you at any given time. It's really worrisome. But Tua is the limiting factor. Like you can only do so much with a guy like Tua. And again, once the cold gets here, the guy just listen. He's not built for it. He spends all of his freaking off season in Hawaii and nice weather and stuff like that. He doesn't. If I was him, I'd spend an entire year in Antarctica or something. You know what I'm saying? After the season's over, take your ass to Alaska or Antarctica and just chill there for a little bit, get used to the cold. But you got to acclimate yourself, and he's never had to. He deals with the cold when the cold gets here in football season, right? So I don't know, man. I think it's a waste of a roster. I mean, I really thought last year when we went down, when Rodgers went down, that the Dolphins were going to go ahead and take that next step and take the AFC East away from the Bills. I was actually hoping that was going to be the case, but December came around and they fumbled the ball, literally and figuratively.
Hey, I pray on everybody in the AFC's downfall. That's not named the Jets.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
The expectation is there, though, and I think that's a lot of what it is, too, because Brian Flores didn't necessarily fail that team at all in the classic sense. They just couldn't really get over a certain hump, and that's the same issue McDaniels was running into. So I'm all for it. I mean, come over, buddy. Like Robert Saleh said, we're waiting. We're here for you, buddy. We're
here. We got you covered.
Open arms, big hugs. You're in a... And I would still say, right, this argument still rings true, I think, from a couple years ago. You're still walking into essentially a ready-made offense. Garrett Wilson will be locked in by then. You may still have Breece Hall hanging around. If not, you still have some young, capable backs that we just brought in. I don't know what tight end will look like at that point.
Pieces on the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? You got your Tippmann at your center. You'll have Fashanu if we wind up letting go of Tyron Smith after this year. I can see us bringing a Morgan Moses back. He's already talked about potentially being back already. So, I can see that being somebody that we have on the team. So your offensive line would have 3, maybe 4 of the 5 starters kind of locked in. That's a long way in going into making sure you have that continuity on the offensive line too.
It's not bad
to win now and later, really, the way you look at it.
Yeah, depending on how Jordan, I mean, there's not really a huge question mark. Either Jordan Travis has somehow identified himself as the guy, and you just need to determine if that's somebody you trust to work around, or he's a quality backup for us, I think, in an ideal world, and you have your pick of who you want to bring in as a starter anyways with solid pieces around. So, yeah, it is what it is. We shall see. But, I mean, I think ultimately I'm looking at this as like a 1-year situation with Hackett potentially, maybe 1 to 2 years. Then I honestly think Rodgers might try to ride off into the sunset if we do get a Super Bowl.
It wouldn't shock me if he did it this year. Like if the Jets make the Super Bowl this year and win it, I think Rodgers will retire. I think he's the kind of guy who would like to be able to walk away on his own freaking footsteps and at the top of the game.
That's the way I looked at his press conference when I heard it. You want to go out as essentially one of the top players at your position, and then you want a Super Bowl ring, and then we call it a day. Like you could chase it for another 2 years, but I mean, how realistic is it that he's going to grab 2 or 3 chips? Take the one, call it a day. You've imparted your wisdom on the roster and all of that, as you mentioned. But
what's crazy is we're not going to be upset about it as Jets fans. If you get us one. Yeah, you know what? You do whatever you want to do. You want to come back? We got you. You want to leave? We understand. We appreciate it. One in our lifetime? Man. What all Jets fans wish for, bro. Just give us one in our lifetimes as a fan base.
Please, look here. When I have to look my son in his eyes every day when I'm sitting there stressed out on Sundays and he's trying to figure out what's wrong, all he knows is that daddy likes the green team and they suck.
It's the green team. They suck. They're trash and they make him act like this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my kids and I just have fun with it. They've gotten to the point now where they just kind of like laugh. They're like, you chose this team. You chose this for yourself, Dad. So this is why you go through this.
Good times. I don't think I have any. I don't think there's any much more I can say, at least in regards to Ron Middleton. We'll see how that Mike McDaniel situation will play out. I don't know. I want to say I don't know if they'll necessarily be strong competition for him, but when guys tend to fail at one destination, it seems like they try to fall back into what they know a little bit. True. So realistically, it's probably like a 49ers and Jets type conversation again. But
pretty much. But I could see Saleh getting a job as a DC almost immediately, if I'm being honest.
100%.
I don't think that would be hard at all. He'd be able to get a DC job like immediately. Same with Ulbrich. Like, I keep wondering if we were to have a bad season, right? I keep questioning if Joe Douglas is going to be on the hot seat. I think Saleh is definitely gone if we have another losing season. Do they move up Ulbrich, right? Is Ulbrich gone too, even though he's the leader of a top freaking 5, top 3 unit on the defensive side of the football? Or will they move him up to the head coach? I personally would hate that. I think we should go the offensive head coaching route after we've tried the defensive route so long. And it's been great for our defensive side of the football. It really has, but it never seems to pan out for us offensively. So I'd be ready to go ahead and give – I'd be ready to give Todd Monken, an opportunity to be a head coach. Ben Johnson. I'm all on board with going offense when it comes to the next head coach of the New York Jets. Hopefully that's a moot point and we don't have to worry about it because we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Saleh get himself an extension, and then we'll run it back again next year with Tyrod Taylor and Jordan Travis.
I was wondering what Rodgers got to go with.
I was like, I guess Tyrod and Jordan. We're going to do that.
You know what I've been thinking about?
What's up?
I've been wondering because Archie Manning, I think, has about 2 to 3 years to go. Like,
oh, bro,
that,
we're on the same page.
I think that's the window a lot of people are waiting on, right? And
we just need.
I would love to have him.
Listen, if we've got to go ahead and
take
a dive, I'd be all about freaking saying, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and give Tyrod Taylor a 3-year extension. And keep him at quarterback. If we lose, we lose. But man, you forget Archie Manning Jr., man. Like, have you seen it? Like, I've watched this kid play ball, bro. I know right now there's an issue with him at Texas Tech because of the initial quarterback that was there, and
he just loyal to their.
But
I seen that spring game. Bro. He was lighting stuff up.
He has the athleticism of his father and the IQ of his uncles, bro. And that to me that's gold. That is absolute gold. If we have a shot at Archie Manning, I would bet on that freaking gene pool 9 out of 10 times. And if that means we got to suck for Archie Manning Jr., I'd be okay with that for the next couple of years. If it meant having a Manning operate the Jets offense for the next freaking 15 to 20 years.
I'm always wary of us having the number 1 pick because I just assume somebody will pull a Manning and be like, nah, get me the hell out of here. That's ultimate heartbreak to know that you can get the guy you want. And then he's like, nah,
I don't want this for myself.
Get me the hell.
But to be fair, Archie Manning Sr. wanted Eli to go to New York, vice San Diego. So like they love New York. That's not the issue. I don't know what the issue was with San Diego at the time, but it wasn't New York. So obviously, and then his son Eli is a legend right now in New York because he's won freaking 2 Super Bowls, and he's beloved by even Jets fans because he stopped Tom Brady from winning extra Super Bowls. So like, I think the Mannings are considered royalty in New York, and I think he knows that. So I don't think he'd have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's true. If you can perform, you can perform. But yeah, I'm always like, I know what the stigma is out there until we can get back to some winning ways.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to take an Andrew Luck type dive in your career if you come here, or somebody's going to run you into the ground. Like it's one of the two. Man,
Archie Manning Jr., New York Jets quarterback.
Yeah, I think I would have real tears to know that we get him,
bro.
And then he's like,
No, he's not going to do that to us.
I'm
not even going to speak that into the air because he's not going to do that to us. Just like his uncle's a legend here, he's going to be a legend. Hey, the Mannings are so respected. We gave Adam Gase a head coaching job because Peyton Manning said to. That right there alone should tell you how much we take into consideration the words of the Mannings.
Why would you bring that back up? Why?
I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying, if we got to go ahead and sell it that way for Archie to understand the value, so be it. We took L's by listening to Peyton to bring in freaking Adam Gase in here. Major L's.
But you don't think that burned his relationship with Woody? And he's like, F off.
Maybe
F
Peyton.
off of your opinions and take your recommendations and shove them.
And shove it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if Woody got a chance to sit in a room with Peyton, he'd probably punch him in the nose like, you freaking liar. You're a liar. And we all know it.
sold me a goddamn Cinderella. Gave me the pumpkin.
You sold me a
patch.
pumpkin. That's all you gave me was a freaking pumpkin, and it was rotten inside too.
Busted
it wasn't
open
even like
already.
A fresh
It was
pumpkin. Yep, a trash pumpkin. That's what freaking Adam Gase was.
You know what's sad about this? It always reminds me that like why people say first impressions are so important, because I all I can still remember from that first press conference was that weird eye shit that he had
Weird eye
going on,
thing,
and
bro.
I was like, "This is a nut. This is
I
a
was
nut
like,
job."
what is wrong with him? Is he high? I thought he was having a stroke at one point. I was like, somebody call an ambulance because the guy's having a stroke on screen.
I think the
We should have
YouTube
known
shorts
then.
had just started around then, so all I kept seeing were these clips, and they would
Was it
show
popping
like
up?
him looking at like a ghost or some shit that was like floating around on the screen as his eyes was. Yeah, I was over it. I was like, man. Day one of your press conference should be you walking in, you be able to set a clear vision. There's nothing that nobody can really dispute or, refute from you and all that stuff. Like the Hackett interviews now piss me off because it just sounds like he's always in damage control. It's never, here's my
100%.
plan. Here's what we're doing. These guys look good. This is it. It's always, I got
from it.
Survival mode.
Better. Yeah. We learned from that. We're going to go ahead and get better. We're taking in some information. We got some individuals giving us some guidance. We're going to get better. You straight bum. You've been getting better since you left Green Bay.
I'm mad that I had hopes for him. I convinced myself he had good days with the Bucks. He's done some things in the league.
With the Jaguars, I was just like, yeah, man, he made Blake Bortles look like a freaking top 10. He gave Blake Bortles a Pro Bowl year. I convinced myself that this guy was going to be good for us. I lied to myself.
I didn't have high expectations. That's the pissed off part. It's not like I said, okay, he'll come in here and find a way to be a top 10 OC. I was just like, he can come in. He can be average.
Robert
Saleh has the elite defense.
Average.
We'll be good. Maybe you strike gold and, you develop up a good quarterback or something that carries you longer than needed. But
I feel like a Miami Dolphins fan that believes in Tua with what we did with Nathaniel Hackett. We spoke ourselves into believing that this guy was going to elevate our offense. And he was going to be able to at least make us respectable offensively. I feel like I enjoyed being lied to, and I lied to myself, man, when it came to him. And it's obvious that without Aaron Rodgers, this guy's probably out of the NFL long time ago.
Yeah, that Broncos should have been a death sentence for him. That
100%. Without question, bro. Yeah, he'd be on the couch right now watching games like we are. Like, that's what he'd be doing. He'd be probably having his own little podcast talking about his time in the NFL and what he could have done better, right? He's definitely not at OTAs right
now. No. Oh, my God. I would hate that. The Nathaniel Hackett podcast show. And he's breaking down. Well, this is when I knew I fucked up.
Yep, right?
We just kept doing the same mistake, and I don't know what I was thinking, but
I kept telling you I was learning from it, but obviously I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I could have changed things up here, but you know what?
I think I would peep it out when I'm like not really doing shit, just so I can understand what I need to identify in a bad coach when I'm hearing shit. So when we're looking at new guys, I'd be like, no. This motherfucker got the Hackett gene. Nah.
He got that Hackett mindset. I don't want it. Start identifying Hackett as like a freaking genome. Like,
that's
he's
hell
a Hackett.
Nah.
And I will help. Case of the Hackett.
I'll help the Jets fan base send sandwiches or communicate those flying airplanes with the messages or something. Like, nah, Oh man, that was good. It's hot over here too. It's hot where I'm sweating. I got a meeting soon. I should have known. We never had a conversation that doesn't go over what I originally think it's going to be. But
that's just how we are now. I'm not even surprised by it at this point.
Big facts. You guys aren't watching this live, but by the time you're seeing this, if you stayed in tune for this long, it's been damn near 35 minutes of joyous conversation. Much appreciated. Let me know what you guys ultimately think, though. Ron Middleton, would he be your preference? Are you looking at other options out there? Convince me how you're going to get somebody here, because it's always a difficult feat for us as Jets fans. But I don't know if you have any parting words on the situation as we get out of here, Gunny.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, right now, we just need to go ahead and hope Nathaniel Hackett isn't the reason we're losing games this year. I think with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, we should feel a lot more comfortable. Honestly, I even think with Tyrod Taylor taking the helm, we should still be average, right? But man, after that, if we're talking about him having to groom Jordan Travis coming into a game, I'm worried about it. I do hope he proves us wrong, by the way. I hope Nathaniel Hackett goes out there this year and he calls immaculate games, and like we could just stare at games and be like, wow, we were wrong. I want to be wrong about this guy. Let's get that clear. We're not rooting for this guy's failure. We are Jets fans first. But Nathaniel Hackett is a legitimate concern. But I think with Aaron Rodgers behind center, I think we've got somebody who's going to, in essence, be our Peyton Manning to Adam Gase relationship. We'll have that here with Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. So go Jets. I'm hoping Nathaniel Hackett definitely is the reason we're winning games. At the very least, don't be the reason we're losing them.
Big facts. It's funny because while we're wrapping up, I'm seeing a pop-up from Bleacher Report about Rodgers defending Nathaniel Hackett. So I'm going to see. I'll see what nonsense this is. I doubt I want to react to it, but I got to see what the excuse here is going to be. Lord, this must have been outside of whatever live stream stuff New York dropped.
Yeah, I think they were talking about him getting on earlier today at the last day of OTAs.
Touche. Well, we appreciate you guys. You can find my boy Gunny. His YouTube channel is, as mentioned in the title here, New York Jets Situation Report. Where else can they find you at, Gunny?
Yeah, now you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course on YouTube. Again, just type in New York Jets Situation Report, pop right up. And I'm also a regular on the Thursday Thick of It. I am the co-host with Green Bean on Thursday nights on the Thursday Thick of It. So you can catch me there as well.
Sweet. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your days. Your weekend's coming up, Memorial Day, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you guys again. Peace.